I've set up a massive bracket featuring every college, and all 134 schools have a chance at winning this tournament. There's no seeding, so matchups were randomly generated, and every single game will be played on a neutral site. We got some crazy first round draws like Colorado versus Florida State, but first we have playing games to get our team total from 134 to 128. Again, everybody's starting spot was randomly generated, and these were two of the unlucky schools that have to play an extra game. This one's in the Fiesta region, so that's where it'll be taking place. And even though Bowling Green put up a good fight against Penn State in real life, it doesn't seem like that's translated to college football 25 unless they pick up this 4th and 10, but it's dropped. With that stop, the Wildcats were able to run out the rest of the clock, and I'm sure Noah Fafita could carry this team pretty far. He's moving on to the round of 128 versus Texas State. We have another playing game where the winner of this one will take this spot, and every game being on a neutral site should make things pretty interesting. Nobody's ever going to have a home field advantage, and UNLV struggled in this game. No matter the result of this play, it is all over. I'm not sure what they're doing, but after seeing that play, Florida State's probably going to start recruiting that quarterback, and we've now seen the results of the two playing games in the Fiesta region. Each region will have 32 teams in it. This is the bottom half of it, and now we're on to the Sugar region where Tennessee has to play in a playing game. What's crazy is without spoiling the last imperialism, they're facing a pretty solid team. And because you all crushed the likes on that video, I am working on another one with 150 teams as we speak. With the updated rosters though, Ohio seemed to run out of luck as they have only put up 3 points against the Volunteers. And we still haven't had a close game in this tournament. We know they're coming though, it could just take a bit. And this is the other playing game in that region. Texas Tech might have struggled against FCS school Abilene Christian in real life, surviving with an overtime win, but they're gonna come out and win this one by 2 possessions because that's not held on to. I was hoping that the Hilltoppers would do a little bit better, but they couldn't even make it into the round of 128. Now there's only 2 playing games left. This one takes place in the Cotton region, and unfortunately I have to stick to my word that I'm not making any more jokes about Iowa's offense. It actually looked pretty good until they played Iowa State, and their defense has been locked down in this one until this play. Arkansas State just got it within 6 points, but they have to recover this onside kick, which there's a chance they do until the Hawkeyes are able to hang on. The Red Wolves still have all 3 of their timeouts too, so they could force a 3 and out to get the ball back. It's just not happening. And I love how to finish off this play, he just dropped the ball. Assuming their kicker can hit from here, that should seal it, but they're going to continue to pick up first downs as well. And that means the Hawkeyes are going on to the round of 128. It's also going to leave us with one final playing game, and whoever wins this has to take on Ohio State next. That has to be one of the worst draws either of these teams could get. And in the Peach region, Cincinnati had no issues getting this win. We're officially ready to start the round of 128, and it all begins with Arizona taking on Texas State. Now, as an 82 overall team, the Bobcats could put up a fight, and that's what they've done. As we approach the 2-minute warning, they have a 4-point lead. Arizona could easily get into the end zone right here though. They're gonna drop the ball, and now they have to come up clutch on 4th and 1. It looks like they are in Wildcat. They're not even gonna have their quarterback out there on the field, and it's getting stuffed. That means all it takes is Texas State getting 1 first down, and they're gonna start the round with an upset. After how boring those playing games were, we needed something like this, but they're about to lose yards. And here we go, it's 3rd and 3. TJ Finley hands it off where they are going to come up short. Now the Bobcats are just gonna punt it back to Arizona. Noah Fafita has been given one more chance to help his team come back, avoiding the upset. And all they have to do is drive about 50 yards down the field, but they're taking a sack. Texas State has come to play in this, and the Wildcats aren't going to stop the clock by spiking the ball. They didn't want to waste it down, which was really smart. T-Mac was able to take them to the 40 with that catch, and there's still 52 seconds on the clock, so Arizona has plenty of time, but Texas State's going to get the interception, and we officially have an upset. Arizona did not deserve to win this game. And my bad, the Bobcats quarterback's not TJ Finley, it's Jordan McLeod. He transferred in from James Madison to help them pull that off, and now they'll get to play the winner of Florida and Utah. To my surprise, even though the Utes are a 90 overall, they're losing to the Gators at the moment. They have to go down the field and score a touchdown here. But Utah's probably only struggling because Cam Rising got injured again. No matter the situation, the poor man can't stay healthy, so they have a backup quarterback out there on the field right now. Their offensive line is literally giving him all the time in the world. He's chucked it for 50 yards, but all of that was for nothing. Rumor has it Shedeur Sanders wants to transfer to Utah after seeing how well the offensive line's playing though, and it's taking Utah a long time to spike the ball. If they want to win this game, they got to start sending it to the end zone, just chuck it up. I think that's what they were trying to do here, but that play didn't go their way, and a win like this for Florida is something that could save Billy Napier's job. They're about to get the sack to seal it because there was no chance they were getting off another snap. I'm very intrigued to see how this game's going to go in the next round, but it's going to be a long time before before we get to that one. I thought Maryland would play better than this, but they let Oklahoma State blow them out, and it wasn't even off of a big game from Ollie Gordon. Despite rushing for more yards than AJ Green, he didn't win player of the game. And Notre Dame fans should be terrified they have to play a group of 5 school. They're known for getting upset by them, but they took care of business in this matchup. And Riley Leonard actually looked good on offense. So far, the top quarter of the Fiesta region looks pretty good, and this next section set up for Texas A&M to run through it. We were definitely spoiled with a couple close games, because this looks like it's going to be another one that isn't going to come down to the wire. Charlotte has it on a 4th and 19 they're not picking up. So that means the Aggies are on to the round of 64, and they're playing the winner of North Texas versus Akron. Well, it was another one that wasn't close. The Mean Green dominated, and I had a great time when they had me out at their stadium this past weekend. While playing College Football 25 against some of their players, I met Zach Evans, so that was cool to see him win player of the game. And we have another snooze fest of a matchup on our hands. After the last Imperialism result, though, you never know when one of these smaller schools are going to make a deep run. And if they're going to get us a close game that comes down to the wire, I'm all for some of these group of 5 matchups. UAB is trying to drive down the field, but now they're stuck on a 4th and 2. So in order to stay in this one, they have to pick this up, and it looks like they're about to move the chains. They'd stop the clock after that by spiking it, but they still have 69 yards to go down the field, and that was not a nice throw from their quarterback. Jacob Zeno needs to be more accurate than that. This time he is going to hit his target, but he couldn't secure the catch, making it a 4th and 10 that UAB is going to have a completion on, but it's straight to the Alabama DB, where South Alabama is about to take this back for a touchdown too. That was some clamps right there to get the win over the Blazers. But it's not like their freshman quarterback played too well. He's put them on to the next round, but that's about it. And Vanderbilt could be an interesting team on this part of the bracket. Not only would they just win, but they would annihilate Ball State. And with Diego Pavia at quarterback, they seem to be so much better. I mean, they beat Virginia Tech in real life, but now we have Auburn versus FAU. And I'm sure Tiger fans wish they could always play this well. Peyton Thorne went off for 4 touchdown passes. And early on in this tournament, underdogs haven't had that much luck. Up until now, the only upset we've had is Texas State over Arizona. And in this matchup, at least, I'd consider these two teams pretty evenly matched. South Carolina's come out playing the same way they did against my Kentucky Wildcats, though, looking to embarrass every team that they face, and this one was no different. I still haven't recovered from the fact that they destroyed Kentucky, and it makes it hard for me to root for them in this tournament. They got the win that they were looking for, though, and these are all the final games that'll be in the Fiesta region. Next up, we have 280 overall teams facing off against each other, and Toledo didn't just beat Virginia, they completely embarrassed them. Unfortunately for the MAC school, though, they're going to have to play the winner of this game, and Michigan's offense seems to have fixed itself against Pittsburgh. Donovan Edwards had an incredible game, but I need the tight ones that come down to the wire. Because these two teams are evenly matched, I thought this would be a good game, and technically it has been, but nothing would prepare me for Syracuse's only points to come off of a safety instead of a touchdown or a field goal. That's how bad Cal McCord's been, even though in real life he seems to be shining. And this is the player Ohio State thought they got rid of. I believe in him in the orange, though. They're trying to make a comeback with a minute left in this game, and that completion's moved the chains for them. They're now out in 5 wide, where he is going to throw it straight to the Mustangs linebacker. I mean, that was the blindest read ever. These fans can't be too happy. He wasn't able to get them on the board once today, but there's still a chance they could get the ball back because they have 3 timeouts left and they got to make a tackle. Now, you would think Syracuse would call a timeout here, but they let the clock run out. So they have given up on Kyle McCord. They didn't even want to give him one more shot. That was a super weird ending. It's just another bug that's in this game. But the Orange deserve to lose anyway, and we're moving on to the next matchup. With a minute left, Georgia State is down by 9 and on a 4th and 15, so they weren't going to win this one. Fresno State gets the interception, and they're going to be playing against SMU next. Surely they'll be able to score more than 2 points versus that defense, and Rice has a tough game ahead of them. They were always going to struggle, but they got their score doubled, which is even worse, and RJ Harvey had a field day versus that defense. That leaves us with one final matchup in the Fiesta region for now, and Liberty's a pretty good team, so this could be anybody's game. With a minute and a half left, they're actually up by 1, so they're in a decent position, but if they give up a field goal, it's all over. After that pass was swatted down, it is now 2nd down, where they are about to get like 15 yards. And Taylon Green, the Boise State transfer, is moving them down the field. They're getting another few. But even if it didn't get them that much, they still have plenty of time. Realistically, they pick up another 1st down and they're probably good. But panic has started to set in. They're spiking the ball. There's just 25 seconds left on the clock now. They only have 1 timeout, but that's all they needed. They're in field goal range. Liberty's going to try to ice their kicker by burning a timeout, but they're probably going to wish that they would have saved it because that is straight in. Ideally, this kickoff is just going to go out of the back of the end zone so they don't waste waste any time, but it doesn't. They're returning it for nothing. And Caden Salter's a good quarterback, but he is not getting them into field goal range in just 14 seconds, even if this is a good throw. I just don't see it happening. They need another 25 to 30 yard play in 7 seconds. He doesn't get that. Of course, they caught it though. And all the Arkansas defense has to do is go into prevent mode, but the computer is incapable of doing that. They're going to give up the catch. And Liberty was super close to breaking free for the game-winning play there. That was a good game to conclude the round of 128 in the Fiesta region. And this bracket is so large that we still have another 3 regions to go. Next up, the Sugar region, where Tennessee's playing first. But they got an easy opponent in both their play-in game and this one too. Their offense really didn't play that well, but their defense shut down Marshall. And Nico won while only completing 43% of his passes. The Power 4 schools are trying to run through all of the small ones. But unless Texas Tech can score 15 points in 31 seconds, the Red Raiders are going to fall to Western Michigan, and I just don't see them pulling it off. I spectate a lot of these not close endings just in case something happens though, because that would be incredible. And onside kicks get recovered more frequently than you would think, but this isn't going to help them at all. I can see why the Broncos are going to come out on top, but I was really hoping something interesting would have happened. And we'll see how Western Michigan can do against Tennessee. Another Power 4 school could lose in this next one. We have Northwestern playing, and they're only 3 overalls better than FIU. What's crazy is if Northwestern doesn't score with this play, they are going to lose this game by 34. And they couldn't even get a snap off. They scored 0 points. We're starting to see some of the group of 5 teams step up though, and that makes me wonder if Miami could also be on upset alert here. Realistically, that was never going to happen. They blew out the Spartans, with Cam Ward throwing for 6 touchdown passes, and they're currently the team that's on fire in this part of the region. Now we have Hawaii and Coastal Carolina playing each other, and the Rainbow Warriors are losing by 4, but they're driving down the field trying to score a touchdown, which would give them the lead. Now after that play, they burn their first timeout for whatever reason. I don't understand why they do that, because now if they can't score on Coastal Carolina, there's no chance of getting the ball back. But I guess it doesn't matter. They just scored the go-ahead touchdown. All Coastal needs right here though is a field goal to at least send it to overtime. They could even score a touchdown with 3 timeouts. And after getting a few yards on their last play, they're going to throw it over the middle to take them past midfield. Once again, dropping back and trying to get some big gains, but they weren't able to bring it in, and now they're going to almost take a sack unless they get that ball out. All of a sudden, it's 3rd and 10 for Coastal. And you can't deny how good this game looks graphically. Up close, it did look beautiful. They're completing a huge pass over the middle for a touchdown. So Coastal Carolina has responded back and hit the same celebration. What a play, what a throw that was right there. Their DBs just couldn't cover number 8. And I highly doubt Hawaii's going to score a touchdown in the next 20 seconds. They have such a long way to go, but that's a good start. They still have one of their timeouts left too. We'll see what type of defense Coastal is going to run versus them. And they're very lucky that play didn't result in a catch, because it would not have helped them out at all. I think they're about to take a sack. Well, it all comes down to this right here. You just chuck it up to the end zone, you hope for the best, or you take another one. What a response that was from Coastal Carolina. They came back. And I'm sure Ethan Vasco is going to have an incredible night. It looks like their next opponent's probably going to be Boston College, but you never know. East Carolina could pull this off. It's just not very likely, because with 12 seconds left, they're down by 14 points, but they could have gotten into the end zone. We're only going to get to see these sick helmets one time, but I am rebuilding the Pirates on my second channel, so if you want to see more East Carolina content, it will be over there. They would score a touchdown on the final play, but it doesn't matter. This game is already over. And now we have an in-state matchup in Georgia. I figured it was probably going to be close, but Kennesaw State is a new FBS program. They just joined this year, so they struggled, letting Dexter Williams II take them down. I'm excited for this next matchup though. We have Colorado and Florida State playing, who are probably 2 of the most hated teams in college football at the moment. I'll stand by Florida State though. I still think they should have made the playoffs last year after going undefeated. And this one wasn't even close. The Seminoles crushed Colorado. DJ still doesn't look great, but he is playing better. And USF got such a bad draw to have to play Oregon first. Just like against Alabama, they put up a fight for a while, but they couldn't pull away. And I still think they're going to give Miami a good game in real life a couple weeks from now. I'll be there to hopefully watch USF upset the Hurricanes. And our next tournament game's between Tulane and Tulsa. To my surprise, it's actually coming down to the wire. And they started this drive so far in their own territory, but they still could come away in the end with the win. What are they doing? You would think they'd start taking some shots to the end zone. There's only 12 seconds left. That is what I thought, but it was off target, so it's 4th and 10. Tulane is holding on for dear life here. It is touchdown or bust, but that ball was dropped. They're able to take a knee, and the Golden Hurricanes have been eliminated. That was a good little ending though. I appreciated it, because I'm not expecting Southern Miss and Texas to be close. However, somehow with 2 minutes left, this is close. And every so often, this sim engine gives us some really interesting matchups. Southern Miss completes a big pass. We saw some chaos in the last Imperialism, but this would be the biggest upset on the channel. And Texas isn't going to let that happen easily. That sack might have even gotten Southern Miss out of field goal range, though the check down to the running back was smart. Nobody was guarding him. And they should be running down the clock more before snapping this ball, but never mind, they're going to pick up the first down. Every time we do videos like this, someone is susceptible to getting upset. upset. But the Longhorns are not a team I was expecting that to happen to. They've been one of the best in college football. Giving up that touchdown though, they're now trailing by 4. And this might just be the start of a huge underdog run, though Quinn Ewers is getting them to midfield or not. Apparently that ball was dropped. But that shows you how quickly things could change. They still have all 3 of their timeouts, and Southern Miss has given up a touchdown. Nobody is catching him. I know Isaiah Bond is fast, but he just dusted everybody by like 10 yards. And why did they think they could press somebody like that? I've seen enough. The Golden Eagles don't deserve to win this game. They can try, but they're dropping the ball right there. They've dropped the ball on the entire game with the lead they had. And let's see what they have drawn up on the final play. Will they be able to get it to the end zone? Probably not. This ball is going to go past the 20 though, and it was almost caught, but the Longhorns have survived. If anything though, we've learned that they're far from unbeatable, and either of these teams could catch them off guard in the next round. Right now it looks like Georgia Tech's going to come out on top, but Washington has the ball past midfield driving, and if they score a touchdown, they can win this game. They have no timeouts left, so getting out of bounds like they did right there is going to be huge, but Will Rogers just threw it to them. He cannot afford to make another mistake like that. This one is also at a linebacker, but it still wasn't caught. They're running the ball on 3rd and 10, and is Washington just giving up? They might not even get a final snap off. 1 second left on the clock. Will Rogers throws, and Washington is going to get into the end zone. I don't know what the Huskies were doing until that play, but they have pulled it off, assuming they hit this extra point, which they do. That was an incredible ending. Georgia Tech fans can't believe it. And there's only 4 games left in the Sugar Bowl region for now. This one could easily have a tight finish like that last matchup. And I'm stunned at the fact that Purdue's put up 50. Oregon State's trying to come back in the final 30 seconds, but they're trailing by 2 possessions. So they were never going to pull that off. Purdue is going to move on, and they'll be facing either Army or Penn State next. The Nittany Lions ended up playing a little bit better than they did against Bowling Green, though it was close for a split second, and then Drew Aller just put them away. I'm hoping that at least Colorado State Kansas is entertaining though, because I think the Rams could have a decent shot at pulling off an upset here, but I was wrong. The Jayhawks won by 21 points, and at the moment they could probably take down LSU too. UMass tried to give the Tigers a scare, but they just couldn't score any points. Only 10 in the game is not going to pull off an upset. So that means that we're now halfway through the round of 128, and Iowa's going to kick it off next for us in the Cotton Bowl region. They already won a playing game, but it was against Arkansas State, so we'll see what they can do against a Power 4 team, Stanford, who just joined the ACC, and at the moment they find themselves down by 4. I think it's said that Cade McNamara has already thrown 3 interceptions in this game. He takes the sack, so it's been a rough day for him, and they've let the time run all the way down to just 27 seconds left before slinging it for an incompletion. With even just one less mistake, Iowa would have probably won this game, but instead they're not getting this 4th and 14. And as long as Stanford gets a first down, this game is over, which they're doing with this run. That means the Hawkeyes have been eliminated. They couldn't make it past the round of 128, where there's really only one player to blame. Outside of Alabama, this top half of the region doesn't look too difficult either, so I'll be interested to see who emerges out of all of it. There's a lot of colleges that are matched up pretty easily, so that could lead to some really interesting results. Where it seemed like that ball could have been intercepted on 2nd and 10, they went with something a little less aggressive. UCLA lost their starting quarterback just so he could sit the bench at Oregon as a second stringer, which could be the difference and the reason that they're losing this game, though that was a good throw. Ethan Garbers has waited his time at UCLA to finally be out there. Now he almost throws a pick, and they still need to get into the end zone. The senior isn't that great. He's a pretty average quarterback, but that was not an average throw, and all of a sudden the Tar Heels are in some trouble. We'll see if North Carolina and Max Johnson can get down the field. They're going to make a catch right there, but odds are it's going to be pretty difficult to get into field goal range unless they start going for bigger ones. They only have one timeout remaining now. Max Johnson, with all the time in the world, is just going to sail it out of bounds, and there's not enough time on the clock to waste so much of it like they did on that last play. They're going to go down, which means they have to burn their final timeout. This is probably the last play of the game. He's going to send it pretty far down the field, but it's not really going to matter. UCLA did an amazing job at closing that one out, and so far former Pac-12 teams are on a roll in this region. California could very easily increase that streak to 3, but instead they let Louisville destroy them. And let's see who the Cardinals are playing next. It's either Nebraska or Duke, so we have more Power 4 schools. And this is crazy. Nebraska might actually be legit again. Dylan Raiola's come in and single-handedly saved the program, and I'm actually excited for all my Nebraska supporters. You all deserve it after all this time. Finally though, the Power 4 matchups are over for 2 games. And that doesn't change the fact that we're still getting a ton of blowouts. Icy Vert's team could not compete here, and let's see if New Mexico gets destroyed as badly as Temple just did. Well, this was borderline as bad as Florida State, Georgia, but even then the Broncos couldn't score 63 points, and that means that we've now gotten 4 straight blowouts in a row. This game could very well increase that streak to 5 in a row, but instead Minnesota has a chance with 40 seconds left in this game, and they're just taking a check down. They're also not burning a timeout, but then they finally did before snapping the ball, and I don't understand the computer's logic behind behind that because now there's like 8 seconds left. The Gophers are going to need a real miracle right here. Can their quarterback throw it that far? He's not going to attempt to on this play, which means he has one more attempt to see how far he can really sling it. Dropping back to the 25 is a bold strategy. There's no way this gets even close, and Alabama gets the win. I like that teams like the Crimson Tide and the Longhorns are getting tested though, and this guy's the only reason it was even close for Minnesota. It's rare to see a player on the losing team win player of the game, so that's how you know that he went off, and Wisconsin should be able to come out on top here. I'm filming this before Alabama and Wisconsin play each other in real life, but because of this win, we're going to get that same matchup in the next round, and the Hokies have to redeem themselves after losing to Vanderbilt. They have definitely done that, holding the Wolfpack to 0 points. They didn't let them score once, and if only their defense could play that way in real life. Now they get to face the winner of two schools that I'd imagine are just sitting in a desert, and this is another one of the weakest sections in the bracket. It's not just this game that Arizona State's going to come out on top of, but a lot of the upcoming matchups that just contain smaller schools. I would say I'd be shocked if one of them won the entire tournament, but we saw how the last Imperialism played out, so we have to keep in mind that any of these teams could make a deep run, especially if they have a pretty easy starting section. They could win a lot of games, and we have a competitive matchup on our hands where that interception is going to seal it for Wyoming. The Appalachian State quarterback's looking like myself out there, and what a terrible read. The best number 17 in Wyoming history takes a knee. He's gotten them this win. He's making sure they move on, and you can stop ranting in the comments that Josh Allen wore number 17 for Wyoming now. To follow that game up, we have Louisiana and Buffalo, and believe it or not, this is going to be an interesting finish. The Bulls are driving down the field trailing by 5 with 30 seconds left on the clock. They complete the pass to get inside the red zone, and that is definitely a 40-year-old man trying to cheerlead for them. Time is also ticked down now that they're spiking it. You can see they wasted a ton, so they have to take some end zone shots. You cannot complete this pass anywhere else, and they get the touchdown. What a comeback that was from Buffalo right there. And what happened to the old man cheerleader? He has now been replaced. Here on the 2-point conversion, they're taking the handoff, but they're not going in. And with 5 seconds left on the clock, Louisiana's not about to pull off this comeback. That ball is floating in the air forever, and it is gonna be picked. The Raging Cajuns just blew this one, and the last 4 games in the Cotton Bowl region aren't that much better. If anybody other than Clemson gets out of it, I would be stunned. And they made quick work of Middle Tennessee State in their first game. A super lucky draw is all it takes to make Cade Klubnik look good, and we're just gonna have to root for a bunch of upsets. It looks like Sam Houston's gonna be Clemson's next opponent just based off of how this game's going, because UConn can't even catch a pass in the end zone, and they're being forced to settle for 3 just to still have a chance. With no timeouts left, all they can do is go for the onside kick, but the Bearcats are gonna recover. So Sam Houston's gonna eliminate the Huskies. Then we have Iowa State versus Utah State, and the Cyclones couldn't stop the Aggies today, so their late comeback hopes aren't gonna make much of a difference here. I can't believe Utah State won this by double digits, but they might just be a top 3 team in this section of the tournament, and it's time that we wrap up this region entirely. Well, it was a blowout win for the Bears, so them getting DeQuan Finn in the transfer portal was huge, and we're ready to dive into the final region of the round of 128, where Ohio State and Cincinnati are playing first. The Bearcats knew this would happen though if they won their playing game, and there was no way that this one was ever going to be close. The Buckeyes just have way too many good wide receivers, so the winner of this one is set up for a rough round of 64 matchup. Well, to my surprise, Washington State just got annihilated by Jacksonville State. They didn't even put up a fight, and sophomore quarterback Zion Turner went off. I have a feeling the next time he plays it could go a little bit differently, but we're not going to find that out for a while. In the meantime though, we have a super close game, and NC State is on upset alert versus Miami, Ohio, but they're about to get into field goal range. All they need is about 20 more yards, and they have 34 seconds to do so. Grayson McCall is going to find a receiver, but it was a hard ball to hold on to. The Redhawks had some pretty solid coverage, and this does not help them. They're going to take forever to get to the line, and by the time they spike this, there might only be 5 seconds left. I think Miami, Ohio is actually about to pull this one off. We'll see how the Hail Mary goes though. This ball should be able to get far enough. It is in the end zone, and it is swatted into a pick. The players are acting upset, but they just pulled off a huge win, and I have no idea how that could even be messed up. Either way, Miami, Ohio will be playing the winner of this one, and Mississippi State's on the verge of losing to UTSA, but they've saved all their timeouts. I'm not sure if that's going to be worth it, but they could still very well get a touchdown with 23 seconds left just because of it, and they don't get out of bounds. That's why it's important to have them. Only 2 of them left now. The halfback screen's going to result in getting like 6 yards, and now with 11 on the clock, they're going to throw it and take it inside the 5. Whether or not this game goes to overtime all comes down to this, and it's swatted. So Mississippi State has one more chance. We'll see if UTSA goes with man-to-man or zone coverage. They went with man, but it locked up, and that was such a close call, but he wasn't in the end zone. Owen McCown's going to take down an SEC school, and just to double check, there truly was no chance that ever crossed the goal line. That's a hard way to go out, but now my Wildcats are playing, and I couldn't have forgiven them if they lost this one to Louisiana Monroe the same way we lost to South Carolina. By the time this video comes out, we've also probably gotten destroyed by Georgia, but at least in this March Madness style tournament, Kentucky Kentucky wasn't a first-round exit. The Wildcats will be playing the winner of BYU and West Virginia, and I can't believe that the Mountaineers lost this by 14. BYU must be set to have a better year than I was thinking, and this next game could be bad football, but it could also end up being pretty close. I'd much rather have this than a blowout. The Eagles are trying to tie up the game, but they need to get 8 points, and that ball was so close to getting picked off after it bounced. Now they're about to take a sack. He got it out just in time, though, making this a 3rd and 10 that is going to be brought in. They're going down to the 23, and the Navy defense better figure out how to hold on where that blitz is not working out well for them. Eastern Michigan still has 35 seconds to get into the end zone. They don't have any timeouts left, but they have got to catch that football there. They basically just have 3 more shots to the end zone. This one is going to be intercepted by Navy, and the midshipmen have survived. I thought we were about to get our first overtime game, but instead the Eagles have eliminated themselves. Now you might think, just looking at the rest of the bracket, where are all the big teams? But trust me, they are coming very, very soon. This is what we get before USC, Oklahoma, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Missouri, though. And there is actually no way that Houston just let Kent State, of all teams, one of the worst in the country, hang 58 points on them. I think that's the most a team's gotten in this tournament so far. And then Indiana's come out versus the Spartans and only scored 10 points. If they don't pick up this 4th and 9, the game is completely over. There's still a little bit of hope left, but not very much. There's a flag on the play, and somehow the Hoosiers have been bailed out. The odds of them pulling off this comeback are still pretty low. That was almost pick 2, but I would love to see some last-second chaos. And what are they doing? Curtis Rourke doesn't care if his wide receiver's open. He is throwing it no matter what, and this is how things do get interesting. If they recover this onside kick, it wouldn't be hard to send it to overtime, but they've picked it up with one hand. That was a bold strategy, and it means Michigan State is leaving with the win. After getting through all that, though, now we get 3 games in a row with some huge programs, and Rutgers is no longer a team that you can just consider a free win. In fact, they might just pull off the upset right here, because with a minute and a half left in this game, they are driving down the field. At the moment, they are trailing by 3, but they have plenty of time to get across that goal line, and I have no idea why they just took a timeout. If anything, they should be running some clock down so Oklahoma doesn't have a chance to respond back. But they actually held onto the ball, so now they're going up by 4. The Sooners have only been left with 45 seconds, and they're on the verge of being upset unless Jackson Arnold can pull off a miracle. This is a good start. Who is that? He just took off, started carving apart that defense, and now they're about to take a sack. 2nd and 20 because of it. That's going to be a lot harder to convert on. Jackson Arnold turns the ball over to Rutgers. They're breaking the tackle, and this one is over. I can't believe the Scarlet Knights have done it, but they have taken down the Sooners, and we're getting a battle of the Trojans immediately after. Unfortunately for Troy, they're not going to win this, but a touchdown here would make the score look better, and it's not like they're missing out on anything by losing. The odds were always that Georgia would be the opponent that the winner of that game faces, because you have the best team in the game versus San Diego State. 44-3. It's hard to get much worse than that, and it was a great performance from Carson Beck. A lot of these final round of 128 matchups are probably going to be blowouts. But all we need is just one of these games to have a tight finish and I'll be satisfied. It's basically just a lot of big schools versus smaller ones, but Northern Illinois was able to upset Notre Dame. Well, with about a minute left, this one is actually close, but the Huskies are going to have to finish off this drive, plus get the 2-point conversion, so that catch helps a ton. With a minute on the clock, they have plenty of time to get in. They could even start to run the ball if they really wanted to, but instead they throw a pick, and everybody was probably rooting for the upset. The only people that weren't were Kansas State fans, and they were so close to not winning this one. That leaves us with just these final 2 matchups in the Peach region, and going into this one, Missouri's a top 10 team. That hasn't stopped them from struggling against Central Michigan, though. And here we go, a minute on the clock. Are they able to go 80 yards down the field to tie it up? My guess is probably not. They couldn't get out of bounds, and that means it's going to take them forever to spike the ball. Just 41 seconds left now. This one is going to take them to midfield, though, and once again, they have an issue with getting to the line and stopping the clock. At least they're in a position where they can start chucking up Hail Marys to the end zone if they want, and I'm happy because all I wanted was this to end the round of 128. We've had multiple close games and they have nowhere to go. I noticed the players on the sidelines moved out of the way when the ball was in their direction, so that's a cool little detail, but they're going all the way to the 5, and I swear they're not going to get off another play. I wish it wouldn't show an instant replay right now. They should be running up to the line, but as you can see, they're just not going to spike it. The clock management on this game is still better than NCAA Football 14, but unfortunately there are flaws, so Luther Burden III is still in it. He's going to have to carry Missouri far where they're playing the winner of this, and there's no reason reason a team that just beat Kansas should be struggling against James Madison. The Dukes have a minute and a half to score a touchdown and win this game, but that was almost picked. And this is a great way to end the night. 2nd and 10, they are going to have plenty of time to take it almost to midfield. So Dylan Morris is starting to cook a bit. All they need is 55 more yards, and they are just going to take a check down instead of going for a lot. That's really just going to hurt the Dukes by the time they spike it. And on 3rd and 4, Illinois pressed James Madison, but they got away with it. All the Dukes had to do there was put a couple fast guys on streaks, but they're going to get away with it, and they've also broken a tackle. They've broken another. They're going inside the 3. Now, it's probably going to take them a while to get up to the line, but by the time that they do and they have a play called, they're going to have a chance to win this over Illinois. Let's see what they have drawn up. It is a one-on-one play, and it's caught. The comeback route works wonders. They are hitting the Heisman, and Tajee Hudson just won this one for James Madison. What an ending to this game. Of course, I think it's important that they drill this extra point, and the Fighting Illini are going to just chuck up a prayer on this final play. They're probably not going to get even close to the end zone, and it's all over. James Madison has done it. That was a beautiful way to wrap up the round of 128, and it's all because Dylan Morris just went off. He has a hard matchup coming up, but you never know what could happen. And it's finally time for us to go back to the top and start the round of 64. But before we continue seeing how this tournament plays out, a word from Prize Picks, today's video sponsor. I'm so glad that the NFL and college football are both finally back, and because of that, Prize Picks will be offering a free square with Caleb Williams for the entire month of September. On there, you predict higher or lower on 2 to 6 players projections, and I can't believe that I'm saying this, but this week I'm personally pairing it with Iowa's quarterback thrown for a touchdown. You can play in over 30 states, so there's a good chance that yours is eligible. And if you want some free cash to start out with on Prize Picks, Code Board will get you $50 instantly when you play with your first $5 or more lineup. Remember, make sure you play responsibly, and let's get back to this massive tournament. Texas State already upset Arizona, so they could beat Florida too. But what I wasn't expecting to happen was to see this result, 44-6. How on earth did the Gators lose that badly? In fact, just looking at the scoring summary, Florida didn't even score until the 4th quarter. And Jordan McLeod had an incredible game. I'm starting to think that Texas State could make a deep run, but what could hold them back is the fact that they have to play the winner of this game. From what I can see, Notre Dame's clearly bounced back from their loss to NIU because Oklahoma State only has 10 points, and on this 4th and 10, if they don't pick this up, this entire game's over. Alan Bowman goes deep and it's swatted. Ollie Gordon must have had too many drinks or something because he didn't have a good day, only rushing for 43 yards. Now we're getting a battle in the state of Texas, and it was never even a contest. Texas A&M is easily going to take down North Texas. They'll get to play the winner of South Alabama and Vanderbilt, and I think we're about to have another small school make it to the round of 32. The Jaguars have pinned Vanderbilt back. They've chewed the clock as well, even though they have limited time to get down the field and score a touchdown, so that was a really odd decision before this play. It's still their fault for putting themselves in this position though. They didn't play great in the first 3 quarters, and now they're trying to drive down the field in like 30 seconds. If they keep going out of bounds like this, they could actually pull it off. That's another throw over to the sideline. So it was the right idea, but it was a bit off target. I thought for sure the Commodores were going to win this game, but they just haven't. And the Jaguars had somebody jump off sides, but that's only a 5-yard penalty. If anything, Vanderbilt should probably get ready to start sending up some Hail Marys. You cannot take a sack right here. At least get out of bounds. And here we go. It's all come down to this. We've yet to see a Hail Mary work in this video, but they're going to get another crack at it. 4th and 5. This is literally it. Just 2 seconds on the clock. This time the throw gets off, but it is short. It's intercepted by South Alabama. And I was not expecting for the Jaguars to be a team that made it all the way to the round of 32. The random draw has clearly worked out in their favor though, and it's time to go to the other half of the Fiesta region. It's a guarantee that an SEC school gets through this one. But Peyton Thorne must have thrown like 4 interceptions again or something, because his team just got smacked by the Gamecocks worse than they did to my Kentucky Wildcats, with Raheem Sanders going off. They're probably going to have to play a team like Michigan next though, but there was always a chance for Toledo to pull off an upset, and look at the score with a minute and a half left. They're only trailing by 3. I can't believe that the Wolverines haven't been able to put them away. We'll see what they go with on 2nd and 10. It is a deep pass down the field that's caught. And how do you hold on to that ball? This is how the Rockets are even in this game in the first place. They're going to complete this one to take it inside the red zone. And I can't believe what Toledo is doing right now. They are going to have all the time in the world to find somebody open. So the Rockets are going up by 4 against the Wolverines. We'll see if they can respond back. They have to go all the way down the field, and they have all 3 of their timeouts still remaining, so that could help them out a bunch. They have a receiver that's burnt the Toledo cornerback deep, and Michigan's going back up by 3. All it took was Moore getting a little bit of a head start. And just like Texas, I think another big school is about to avoid an upset. Toledo did not need to press there, but they did, and that's going to cause them to lose this game unless they have another miracle. I mean, they're really going to have to start slinging it down the field, not taking all these checkdowns, but they have to find a way to get out of bounds as well, like they have been doing with them, which they're also going to do right here. Toledo might not be out of this game yet, but their kicker kicker's been iced on a 57-yard field goal, and it was straight down the middle. We're headed to overtime where Michigan's gotten the ball first. They're feeding it to Donovan, and they've got to sling the rock. It's 3rd and 7, but they handed it off again. It's almost like Michigan wants to lose, but as long as they hold the Rockets to a field goal, it's gonna all be fine. We'll see what happens here. Toledo's going nowhere, and on 2nd and 11, they're going back to the ground, which is a bad move. This has a chance to be one of the biggest upsets of the tournament, but they're playing this so passively whenever they need to be a bit more aggressive, and they're taking a huge sack. It's a good thing that their kicker has proven that he can hit from deep, but they can't get away with only getting another field goal again, so that's a good start. Mason Graham didn't instantly shed his way in. Now they're passing down to the 2, and a simple handoff should take them into the end zone, which it does. If only they could have done that on their last drive, and we'll see whether or not they get the 2-point conversion. The play action worked flawlessly. They just have to find someone open, and they did. I don't think we've ever spectated a triple overtime game on this channel yet, so that could be coming, but that ball was almost picked. I mean, Toledo could have literally just ended it right there. Instead, they're giving up a first down, and Michigan is set up to get into the end zone as they sling it, but they miss. It's picked off by the Rockets, and orgy is sold. Toledo players should be ecstatic right now because they just upset Michigan. Come on, at least somebody's got to be happy that they pulled this off. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. That is a crazy result. And by the end of this round, the Fiesta region might be the one with the most chaos. Literally, any of these teams could win the entire region, go into the Final Four, and SMU just cruised through Fresno State, so I guess they've gone away from their 2-quarterback system. Preston Stone's taken over as the main starter, and he'll be getting either UCF or Arkansas next. This is another one that's come down to the wire, and the Knights scored a go-ahead touchdown, but now Arkansas's been driving down the field. It actually would have really hurt them to hold on to that ball right there, so they got lucky that they dropped it. Now there's a flag, and it's against the Knights. That might put them on like the 5-yard line. So all of a sudden, UCF is in a ton of trouble. We'll see if they're able to get into the end zone here. It's thrown out of bounds. All Taylon Green has to do is hit one good pass, and we'll see if he can do that on 2nd down where he just throws it away. 3rd and goal, at some point, he has to find an open receiver, but he doesn't again. Taylon Green is literally selling it. All comes down to this final play, and UCF has locked up. The Knights deserve this win. They've come away on top, and KJ Jefferson only completed 50% of his passes, but that was enough to make sure that they won the final game in the Fiesta region for this round, and we're just going to keep on pushing where Tennessee, Miami, and Florida State are all playing super soon. After beating Texas Tech, Western Michigan's looking to get another big win though, and they did their best, but they still lost by multiple possessions. The Volunteers are going to be a tough team to knock out, and it feels like their offense hasn't even gotten rolling yet. Miami's is though. Cam Ward has helped them put up 40 on FIU, and they literally just ran through the Panthers. That should give us a really good game in the round of 32 though, and Boston College gets to play another school from Carolina. They're struggling a little bit though. Coastal Carolina's only trailing by 6, and I'm pretty sure they took down Hawaii in the last round on like a last-second touchdown, so they have a chance to do it again, or they could get a touchdown right here as their tight end is streaking down the field. He was so close to taking that into the end zone himself, but the problem is even if they do get a touchdown, they'd only be up by a point. There's way too much time that'd be left on the clock, so they need to continue to run it down. On 2nd and goal, they're going to go down at the 1. Taking a timeout though was a really weird decision, and on 3rd and goal, they're not running it, they're passing it, but it's dropped. How on earth do you not hold on to that right there? I mean, it could literally cost them the game unless they get in right here, which they're going to, but they've still given Boston College plenty of time to respond. I'd imagine they'd be able to, but we'll see whether or not they can. Castellanos is very quick. He is already scrambling for a 10, and on the next play, all he's gonna do is just take a curl route. They've had to burn through 2 timeouts already though. They can't continue to unless they're getting huge gains, and now they're able to spike it. Apparently they're not in field goal range though, and they're trying to get there, but because the run went nowhere, they have to pass it on this 3rd and 11, and they're getting it. It was hard to tell what happened, but apparently they have set themselves up to just drill this kick, and Coastal Carolina even hit the kicker in case they missed it. Evidently they didn't want to move on to the next round. They have choked this away in the final seconds, and on the last play of the game, they're going to complete the pass. I see a blocker down the field, but that's not enough. That would have been crazy if they somehow scored off of it. But instead, they got Boston College set up to play the Seminoles again. They want their revenge, destroying Georgia Southern to get there. And DJ's starting to actually play well. This part of the bracket's going to be much more entertaining than the previous ones we've seen. And I didn't realize how stacked the bottom part of the Sugar region was. Unfortunately for Tulane, they're in a terrible spot. And Oregon's no longer struggling like they have to start the year. Dylan Gabriel threw for 5 touchdowns. And his next opponent will be either Texas or Washington. This is so so weird because these two teams played in the Sugar Bowl last year. But the Huskies lost everybody that made this team so good, which means they're going to get destroyed by Texas. The Longhorns are moving on to play Oregon. That matchup has to be the highlight of the round of 32. But if Penn State wins, that could contribute to a huge one as well. They've struggled to put away the Boilermakers though, so they might not be able to make it to the next round. And that catch means all Purdue needs is 54 more yards to score a touchdown and win. That sack is certainly not going to help them out though. Now they're going to be able to go out of bounds, making it 3rd and 12. Hudson Card, with all the time in the world, finds a receiver and they get out again. Here we go. It's starting to feel like Purdue has a real chance here, but they didn't block him. And after spiking the ball, there's 32 seconds left. 3rd and 19. It's going to be hard for Hudson Card to help his team pick this one up. And they've made it a 4th and manageable, but so much time's run off the clock because that pass was completed in bounds. This is probably the final play of the game, and there's no way that's going to be a touchdown. They also didn't move the chains, even if they saved 1 second left. So the Boilermakers fought well, but they're not going to put out Drew Aller, and the tough matchups aren't ending anytime soon. It shouldn't be a surprise for anybody, but Jalen Daniels couldn't even stay healthy for the entire game. So with a minute left and his team down by 6, he's not out there on the field. It's a backup quarterback who almost threw a pick. It was also almost caught. You couldn't really tell. And on 3rd and 6, the LSU defense sends in 4, which does not generate enough pressure. Purdue wasn't able to pull off the comeback in the end. We're about to see if the Jayhawks can. That was a terrible throw, but they were better off just missing it. Here we go. 2nd and 10. We're going to see if they're able to get anything here. And of course, the lineman's acting like he's injured. That's just him making an excuse for giving up the sack. Will they get much? Not really. This Tiger defense is holding it down strong. They want to play Penn State in the next round, and a QB Neal's going to win it for them. I think the Jayhawks did pretty well for not having Jalen Daniels, but that means the favorites won in every single one of these matchups. Now we're on to the other half of the bracket in the Cotton Bowl region, and we're starting with an old Pac-12 conference matchup. Well, with about a minute and a half left, UCLA is trailing by 6, but they're also completing some huge passes, and now they're just going to hand it off to their running back, who's going to take it for like 7. That's the smart thing to do, but this is not. And all of a sudden, it's 3rd and 3. They stop the clock, which makes no sense because they're giving Stanford a chance to respond. Even then, they haven't gotten into the end zone, but instead of winding down the clock farther, they spike it again. Sometimes their logic is just so weird. They're going to throw for a touchdown, but Stanford could still score a field goal. Well, Ashton Daniels has a hard task in front of him, but they're about to get 15. And the Stanford mascot is so hideous. Now he's going to take the snap, have some time to look around, but he doesn't get it out. And a sack there really hurt Stanford. They had to burn their 2nd timeout, where now this is a terrible read. That would not have helped them out at all. They're taking another one, and UCLA's defense is standing on business. 5 seconds left, at least 80 yards to go down the field. We know that the Cardinal are pretty much just eliminated right here, though it is a 2-on-1. They almost caught it. Terrible prevent defense there from the Bruins, but all that really matters is they were able to get the win, and they'll be facing either Louisville or Nebraska next. Well, somehow we've been blessed again, as this one is a super close game. Nebraska trailing by 6, and they're trying to move it down the field. With no timeouts left, it's going to be pretty hard to do, so they have to spike it, and we'll see if the freshman can continue to lead them to victories. That was a decent throw. He just didn't have his receiver hold on to it, but this one they are going to catch. And the Louisville defense could still choke. There's about 30 seconds left in the game, but they hold on. That was not the ball you want to bring in, because now the time is run down. There's 2 seconds left. Dylan, what are you doing? You have to hike it. Nebraska fans can't believe it. They are so used to being heartbroken. It has happened again, just incompetence. And that was a very fitting way for the Cornhuskers to lose. Now we have a matchup between 2 of the best group of 5 teams, and it isn't looking too good for Memphis. With 32 seconds left, they find themselves down by 10 points, and they can't even get it out. So what a waste of some really sick jerseys. It's basically impossible to win with 7 seconds left, though they get the touchdown. And it's a shame it took them so long to spike the ball. They're going to have to recover this onside kick, but Boise State hangs on. The Broncos are moving on, and the Ashton Jeanty legacy run can continue. They're saying Malachi Nelson won player of the game, but Jeanty, who's one of the best running backs in college football right now, played pretty well too. And it's time for us to see who would really win between Alabama and Wisconsin. I think I know the answer, and I have a feeling what's going to happen the weekend that I post this, which likely is just going to be Alabama coming out on top. Wisconsin has saved all 3 of their timeouts though, so even though they're trailing by 2 possessions, they could score, get the ball back, and score again, but on 4th down, they don't pick it up. I'm expecting Alabama to win by about 14 this weekend, so that was probably a pretty realistic result. Going to the other half of the Cotton region though, this is even weaker than the top part, and it's hard to pick which of these 8 teams will be standing last. It might be Virginia Tech. They just won 51-20, but then again, this is the same team that couldn't beat Vanderbilt. They'll be playing either Wyoming or Buffalo next, and the Bulls won on a last-second touchdown in the first round, but they did not do very well in this one. They simply couldn't stop the Cowboys offense, and there's no reason that Clemson shouldn't win this next one. They're basically playing a copy and pasted smaller version of themselves, but they're There was a point in this game where Sam Houston had a 5-point lead until Clemson scored 30 straight on them. That means we've now had 3 blowouts in a row, and so much for having any close games. Utah State also stunk. That's going to conclude everything in the Cotton Bowl region, with a lot of Power 4 teams moving on, and we'll see how things play out in the Peach region to end the round of 64. Once again, Ohio State should have no issues at all, and they didn't, winning this one by 28 points. Every so often we'll see a chance at an upset, but this was not it, and whoever wins this is probably going to struggle against them too. At the moment, it looks like it's going to be Miami, Ohio, but UTSA could pull off a comeback here. They're getting it to midfield, and by the time they spike it, there's only 33 seconds left. Now it's 2nd and 10. They have a left-handed quarterback. Those are pretty rare. He is going to get a big gain though, and it's a shame it's going to take them so long to get up to the line. It seems to take about 20 seconds to have a good play. At least if you get tackled in bounds and you don't have any timeouts left, they pretty much have 2 shots to the end zone and they're about to take a sack. There's no coming back from that. Miami, Ohio is going to secure their win, and now it's up to my Wildcats to come out on top. As an 87 overall team, they should be fine, but that simply wasn't the case. They lost 28-7, and they didn't make it very far at all. Now BYU gets the winner of these 2 teams, and it's Navy that comes out on top by 16. We have a military school that's made it to the top 32, and they did it while throwing the ball quite a bit. That's going to do it for the top half of this region though for now, and these are the final games in the round of 64, so we'll see what happens. There are some really good matchups that are coming up, and I thought this was going to be a close one, but Rutgers got blown out. They let Michigan's sophomore quarterback throw for 4 touchdowns, and he's going to get the winner of USC and Georgia after this. Well, I had no idea that Miller Moss was this good. The Trojans are currently doubling the Bulldogs' score, and even with that touchdown, they have a long way to go to come back. They're going to have to start by recovering this onside kick, but USC is going to get it, and that means the Bulldogs have fallen. I was not expecting the favorites to already be out of this thing, and Ole Miss is going to have to get revenge for the rest of the SEC. The Rebels might come up short though, because with about a minute left, Kansas State is flying down the field, and now Avery Johnson's going to drop back, throw it again, and complete this one for 6. Before snapping it again though, they don't burn their second timeout. They run it down to only 20 seconds left, and that was a very interesting choice. All they have to do is get into the end zone and they would beat Ole Miss. This is caught, but one inbounds completion and this game is over, so they have to be very careful. Avery Johnson's going to step up and just throw it out of bounds. He knows the pressure is on him right now, but he could still come up clutch. This one is going to the end zone as well. That would be quite the ending if Ole Miss held on right here, but I don't think they're going to, and they have just lost to Kansas State on one of the last plays. Sophomore tight end Garrett Oakley was the one that made the snag, and whether or not they get this 2-point conversion doesn't really matter. Ole Miss is basically just going to have to get super lucky. They don't go anywhere, and that failed kickoff return is how this one's going to end. Avery Johnson's really pulled off the comeback, and I'm sure he's hoping that he's playing James Madison next. The Dukes beat Illinois, but this is a much harder opponent, and after losing by 28 points to the Tigers, they've been eliminated. Brady Cook definitely cooked, making sure that Missouri's at least in the round of 32, and I think this is where things start to get super interesting. There's a lot of underdog runs that are either going to continue or end, and I can't believe what I'm seeing at the moment. This game's tied up with a minute left. Notre Dame has the ball, so all they have to do is get into field goal range to win this, but if they make just one mistake, Texas State could be on to the Sweet 16, and they don't. Unfortunately, the Bobcats are about to start burning timeouts because they're running it, and all Notre Dame is about to do is just settle for a field goal. Never mind, they're throwing it again, and they're about to score a touchdown instead. This is so easy for the Irish. All they have to do is just take their 3, and as time winds down, they're just going to bury it. I feel bad for Texas State. They were so close to pulling this off. Wait, could they have a kickoff return for a touchdown? No, they're going to catch him. That was the closest we have ever gotten to spectating a kickoff return for a touchdown, though. I thought it could happen. And Notre Dame gets the winner of these 2 teams. I didn't think South Alabama would have a chance in this, but with about 40 seconds left, they're going to move it past midfield. And now they just have to hurry up to spike the ball. RBT would be so proud of the performance they're having right now, though they almost threw an interception. And here we go. 18 seconds left. Gio Lopez, again, rolling out to the left, but this is going to be a tackle inbounds. Or no, they're going to break it to then get out. No, all of that just to use their final timeout. And that might cost them because they cannot complete this pass over the middle of the field if they want to still have a chance in this game. They're about to take a sack and it's over. It was such a good effort, but that is a disappointing ending. And somehow, after getting this result, Notre Dame and Texas A&M are going to play each other again. In the bottom half of the Fiesta region, these 4 teams also remain. And if Toledo beat Michigan, then they can definitely beat South Carolina. Clearly, the Gamecocks are just on another level somehow, though, because at the moment, they seem to be destroying everybody. Their running back had 4 touchdowns. After that performance, I doubt either of these teams want to play them either. And the Knights missed an extra point early on, which could really come back to bite them. If SMU scores a touchdown on this drive, they're gonna get the win. And that is 2 bad passing plays in a row. This time Preston Stone is going to find a receiver down at the 10 though, and they really don't need that much more to pull this one off. UCF's defense is not gonna lock up this time around, so now they have to somehow score a field goal. It's gonna be super hard for KJ Jefferson to pull that off. It looks like he's actually just gonna step up and start to scramble to try and get them near midfield, which was actually a really smart move. He has given them a slight chance. This is definitely in his range to just throw it up with the Hail Mary. He also had all the time in the world, but this ball is going well short, and they don't pick it up. If somebody blocked number 12, they might have won right there though, and that was just a crazy offensive game all around with stats like this. I rarely ever see receivers put up numbers like that during these simulations, and I'm super excited for these next 2 games. Surely we're about to get some more classics, but not right here. Miami is going crazy during sim. They must have increased Cam Ward's overall or something because he's been balling, and I wonder if this will play out the same way that it did in real life. With a minute left, Boston College is down by 1, so I guess it's not going to play out the same way, but they could still win this game. We'll see what they come up with on 2nd and 10. That's not what you want. By the time they get off this snap, there's only 30 seconds left in the game. They're not going to pick it up either. So this one's pretty much over. This is probably the final snap of the day. Boston College is not going to take down Florida State. They just got it off in time, and you know that they're not making it to the end zone. The Seminoles are really on their redemption arc run right now, and this is probably the most accurate DJ's been all year. I love it though. That should be an amazing Sweet 16 game, and we have another 2 super high profile matchups coming up. It doesn't get much better than Oregon versus Texas, and with a minute left, the Ducks find themselves down by 3. They're going to have to get in field goal range if they want to send this game to overtime. Dylan Gabriel cannot take a sack right here. He did a great job of evading all the pressure, and they're going to have a huge completion to Tez Johnson. At least I'm pretty sure that's who that is. If it's not, I don't know ball, but they've pretty much guaranteed this game goes to overtime until they just threw an interception. Dylan Gabriel, what are you doing, buddy? You have choked this one away for the Ducks. Texas's defense just came up clutch, and I was so impressed with Oregon plus Dylan Gabriel until he had that turnover. He clearly didn't want to have to deal with the winner of this game, and LSU simply hasn't played well enough in this one. They're trying so hard to come back at the last second, but that ball was almost intercepted. And even if they did somehow manage to get a touchdown, they still need so much to go their way. I'm only watching just in case they did get super lucky. And that was a dart right there. The 2-point conversion also has to go their way though, which it should with the jet touch pass. And here we go, the onside kick, which is going to not be recovered by Penn State. This is why the game is never over until the clock hits 0. All they have to do is then get another touchdown. But of course, that is much easier said than done. All they can really do now is just chuck it up, which they have plenty of time to do. This ball is probably going to go far enough, and it's a flag. There's a flag on the play. Now, someone did catch it in the end zone. Of course, it was the Penn State defensive back. But the Tigers are going to have one more chance to chuck this out. All it takes is a mistake, and this could be going to overtime. They're going to get off another throw. This one's definitely going to go far enough, and there's another flag, but it's also caught. It's against Penn State. I swear that ball definitely looked like someone brought it in. And they're going to decline it for the touchdown. If LSU did all of that and doesn't get the 2-point conversion, that would be so disappointing. They are going to take the sack, though. And how do you manage to mess that up? Their quarterback was on his knees like Will Levis, and Drew Aller has somehow survived for another round. I've got to say, though, that was a fantastic way to wrap up the Sugar region. And let's see what other teams can earn their spot in the Sweet 16. Ideally, as a Kentucky fan, it won't be Louisville, but they made the UCLA football team look like a JV football team, so they're moving on to another round. Then we have Boise State and Alabama taking the field, but as good as the Broncos have been, they simply couldn't compete with the Crimson Tide. Those were the 2 results that I was kind of expecting, though. And then we have this section of the bracket with these teams. If anything, an ACC team will get out of this part, or maybe not. The Hokies are really struggling with Wyoming. All the Cowboys have to do is get in field goal range in the next minute and a half, and they could actually win this. But completing 2-yard checkdowns and taking a 30-year time off the clock doesn't do too much. It is now 3rd and 8, and the Cowboys quarterback is literally throwing it straight to them. But Virginia Tech could not catch it, so they could move the chains, and they do. It's taken them almost a minute to get 13 yards. But that lines up for how the rest of this game's gone. Neither team's been able to get more than 10 points, and it's dropped. It wasn't looking great for Virginia Tech, but I'm starting to think that they're going to hang on here. They snagged the interception. I mean, that was the blindest read ever. And it's going to secure their spot in the Sweet 16. You know they played bad offensively when these are the stats that won and player the game, and they're going to have to play better against whoever wins this one. So much for Baylor standing a chance. They lost this game by 29 points. So that'll give us an ACC matchup in the next round. There's really not that much left before we get to the Sweet 16, and we might just have a couple of blowouts on our hands. Never mind, I immediately immediately take that back because Miami, Ohio is only down by 8, and on 4th and 1, they're going to not convert? Nah. The refs have cheated them out of that, but at least they still have 3 timeouts remaining. I still can't believe they didn't give the Redhawks the first down there. It won't matter as long as they can hold them on this 3rd and 9 though, and Judkins is going to get it. That was such a good effort from Miami, Ohio, but Will Howard's gonna get on his knees to end it. We were so close to another school getting upset by a tiny one, and I guess the same thing could happen here too. Unfortunately though, it didn't. Navy was only able to come away with 3 points, and I had no idea that the Cougars were this good. Playing Ohio State next though, they should still be in trouble, and these 2 games will decide the final 2 tickets for the Sweet 16. I think once we get there, I'm gonna make a new bracket so all the matchups are close again, and the neutral site for those games should be the Rose Bowl. Unintentionally, that's probably gonna give a nice advantage to USC because Miller Moss has led his team to another win. They're coming off of their one against Georgia, so of course they were gonna get this. Then we have this game for the final spot, and Kansas State didn't just beat Missouri, they annihilated them. We've just gone through a ton of blowouts, but all that tells me is some of these teams clearly wanted a spot in the Sweet 16 more than others. Okay, these are the remaining 16 teams, and every single one of them is Power 4. We could still get an underdog run, but it would have to be from a non-contender, and either team could still come out on top of this one, but Notre Dame's gonna get the interception. That was the first play that we watched, and Texas A&M is very lucky that they still have all 3 of their timeouts. They might be able to get the ball back still, but they're gonna have to stop the run, and Notre Dame picks up the first. So the Aggies had their shot to beat the Irish, but just like in real life, they're gonna lose to Notre Dame again. They're gonna get to play the winner of South Carolina and SMU, so realistically, they have a pretty simple path to the Final Four. The Gamecocks have been playing pretty well, so I'm not surprised that they're up by 14, though SMU's about to turn the corner here, so all of a sudden it's just a 7-point game. With this onside kick, it looks like South Carolina is gonna pick it up though, so SMU is done. And we'll see just how far this SEC school can go. After them, you have Miami and Florida State playing, and the Hurricanes did the Seminoles just as bad as they did the Gators. Cam Ward has not slowed down at all, with 3 touchdowns through the air in this game, and I have to say, the Sugar region of the bracket ended up having the toughest 4 finalists. It's super difficult to make it out of this region, which could belong to either of these teams. At the moment, Texas is losing by 1, but Quinn Ewers just slung it for 20 yards, and now they only need about another 10 or 15 to get into field goal range. I'm definitely curious how the Nittany Lions got to 29 points in the first place. That's a great throw, and their mascot knows it's over. Texas doesn't seem to be settling for a field goal just yet, though. Of course, they have to run it a bit. And Penn State's starting to burn through their 3 timeouts. Will they be able to get it back? It is 3rd and 7. It's simply another handoff. That's not going to work. So they're just going to kick their field goal and give it back to the Nittany Lions. Drew Aller has 28 seconds to get his team into field goal range. This first throw isn't caught, but it was a great idea. That's what they need to do, and on this next one, he's taking the sack. After spiking the ball, it is 4th and 14. They have to pick this up to keep their hopes alive, but they're not going to get to midfield to spike it. Penn State needed at least another timeout saved up. Of course, they couldn't have done that without stopping the clock, and even then, they probably weren't going to get a Hail Mary. That was a good effort, though, and now we're halfway through the Sweet 16. I'm hoping that this is finally where Louisville's run ends in this tournament, and it was. The Cardinals simply couldn't keep up with the Crimson Tide. One of these guys will get to play them next, and it's a shame that Virginia Tech's offense has been so bad in this matchup. I understand they just got into the end zone as I was saying it, but if they don't get this onside kick, it's all over anyway, and it's going straight to the Clemson player that's going to hang on to the football. The Tigers have made it all the way to the Elite Eight, and this bracket pretty much just consists of all the favorites to start the year. We're getting a much different outcome than what I got when we did college football imperialism, and once again, we have another blowout. I think nobody having home field advantage has really made a difference, and I am stunned to say that Kansas State's beaten USC and Miller Moss. The Trojans always seem to do super well in sim, but I guess Kansas State does too, and they're going to get a crack at Ohio State. Of all the teams left, South Carolina is definitely the worst one, and it was about time that somebody took them down, but it was super ugly. I really thought they'd put up a better fight than that, and now Notre Dame is the first team to make it to the Final Four. With how well Miami's been playing, this one should be a classic, but it wasn't. We got another blowout, and how did Texas only score 7 points against the Hurricanes? I have no words. Either the game has them super overrated, or Miami's about to have an insane season. With a minute and a half left, Clemson and Alabama is a 10-point game. They're trying to move it down the field though, and taking a timeout there's a bad decision. That was such a waste. Instead, they should have saved all 3 of them in case they don't recover the onside kick. I mean, they're going to have to go for it if they do eventually get in, which they should have, but they couldn't connect to the receiver, and there was probably a little bit of PI there too. That puts them on the 1-yard line where Cade Klubnik is going to take a sack. Now that they've burned another timeout, it's all going to come down to one thing. And here we go. The onside kick is going straight into the hands of the Alabama player. It was not a good attempt. Alabama is going to move on to the Final Four. But to be honest, I was expecting that, and this is a terrible stat line from Jalen. He's going to have to play better than that against the winner of Ohio State, Kansas State, which if we're just going off of overalls, it should be the Buckeyes. Unfortunately, this was just another blowout, where Henderson scored on a third of his touches. There's been a lot less parity in this tournament compared to Imperialism, but this is also on a different version of the game, so they could have worked on the sim logic more. I personally prefer a lot of chaos, but it's time to go to the championship presentation, because it's time for the Final Four. We're going to tease these teams putting that trophy in front of them. And with 3 minutes left, Notre Dame has a lead. Miami has the ball though, so they're trying to protect it. Cam Ward completes the pass for 7. And on 3rd and 3, they're just going to hand it off, which is going to move the chains. Approaching the 2-minute warning, they still have plenty of time to get into the end zone, but they're going to probably do it a lot sooner. And that's going to give the Irish a chance to respond back as well. This takes them inside the 5. They should turn on shoe clock, but you know the computer's not going to. So Notre Dame still has so much time remaining. On the 2-point conversion, Cam Ward's going to have almost no time. So I think we can expect Riley Leonard to get them in field goal range, and that's all they're going to need to get this win is they're at midfield. We'll see what they do with the remaining time left though. They could still make a mistake. And once they get about 10 more yards, I'd expect them to just start running the ball. I'd assume their kicker can kick from pretty far. This throw is going to be off target though. So Riley Leonard just missed. That would have won it for them. Now we'll see what they can do on this play. A check down isn't going to cut it. So it is 3rd and 9. Miami sends the heat and Riley Leonard goes down. That is how you clutch up defensively. And this entire game all comes down to this play. They're going to win it if they pick this up, but it is swatted. Nothing Notre Dame can do now. Cam Ward's in the championship, and they have missed out on making it all the way there. We have a huge matchup coming on the other side of the bracket too, so we'll see which of these two schools Miami's facing. Just looking at the current score, it's probably going to be Ohio State, especially since they have punted it back to the Crimson Tide on their own 4-yard line. After burning their final timeout, they have no other way of stopping the clock, so completing that pass was a huge mistake. By the time they spike the ball, there's 18 seconds left, and on 3rd and 4, they need to have like a 30 or 40-yard throw. Right here, Jalen Milroe steps up and he gets it out, but that's not enough. They're going to have a perfect play on 4th and 4. It doesn't happen, and the Buckeyes are headed to the championship. Just like in college football imperialism, the state of Ohio is represented in this final game. My only hope is it's at least competitive and entertaining. They normally are, and only one team can go home with this trophy at the end of the game. Well, here in the 4th quarter, the Buckeyes find themselves down by 6, but they just picked up the first down, and we'll see if they can successfully drive down the field or not. Will Howard almost threw a pick. He should get a pride sticker ripped off of his helmet just for that read alone, and they have a huge 3rd and 10 coming up. If they're not able to convert here, I would expect them to go for it on 4th down, and they are. After taking that sack, Will Howard is going to have plenty of time to find somebody, but he takes another. Miami's defense keeps on stepping up in this tournament, and when you pair that with what Cam Ward has done offensively, they've had a ton of success. They're basically 1 first down away from winning. So Ohio State better step up right here where Damian Martinez gets tripped up. It is 3rd and 3 now. We'll see if Cam Ward is throwing this ball or handing it off again. I wonder if they're in field goal range as well. I'm not sure how good their kicker is. It is play action, and all they can do is throw it down the field where it was almost intercepted. I thought for sure they were about to mess that up there. But with that outcome, they can send their kicker out onto it, and he is going to drill it. If you remember from Imperialism, they lost because he missed. So it seems like he has worked on his game. That's probably the biggest kick of this championship, and it almost hooked right. Ohio State has a ton of work to do, and Will Howard's just throwing it short. So I'm not sure what the strategy is there. They're trailing by 9 points. They're going to need a miracle in this game, and that could be part of it. The pass is completed, getting him past midfield. Now he's going to find another receiver, but they're going to have to recover an onside kick no matter what happens. Something like that's already happened in this tournament once though, so I could see it happening again. They have a touchdown, but it's coming back because one of their linemen held. The Buckeyes had their shot right there, and now they have messed it up. 3rd and 20. I mean, we know it's pretty much over anyway, but that throw puts the Buckeyes in a decent spot, and I'd assume they're about to punch it in so then they can go for the onside kick. I thought they would have just handed the ball off. Will Howard is about to go down, and Miami's defense just wants to end it. It looks like they're going to waste one of their final plays spiking the ball, and that holding call really held them back in their chances of coming back here. Will Howard turns it over. What a way to end it. That pretty much sums up why the U is coming out on top, which is what Miami fans deserve. Cam Ward has led them here. From 134 teams to 1, this is what would happen if there was a massive tournament across college football. And these are always a blast to film, just like Imperialism, which is coming soon. So if we can hit 10,000 likes on this video, whenever the college football playoffs come around, I will do the same thing again.